Hey friends, Casey Ashmore coming to you again from the studio. We're doing a deep dive on the Texas juvenile justice system, which is different from the Texas criminal justice system for a couple reasons. One, it's governed by the Texas Family Code for the most part, and it, unlike the Texas Penal Code, which is where adult crimes are prosecuted, or the set of laws under which adult crimes are prosecuted in the state of Texas, the juvenile justice system focuses on rehabilitation. It's the only place in our justice system where the state's goal is, if possible, to rehabilitate the child offender. That doesn't mean it's going to be an easy climb, and there are prisons that we house a lot of children in. And that's when there are factors like the dangerousness of the offense, a capital murder, for example, which is where a murder is committed in the commission of another felony, or things of that nature, serious drug offenses. Those are situations where those kind of offenses can graduate a child offender into a situation where their case is eligible for transfer to what I would call big boy or big girl court, the regular criminal district or county court in the county where that offense occurred. And back up a little bit to the last video series where we were talking about that initial detention hearing. There's factors that the court has to look at, and we touched on some of those factors, one of which is the nature of the offense, right? And, how long a child can be held or should be held. And in that initial detention hearing, there has to be a review of that detention. So if the recommendation by the state prosecutor and the juvenile probation department is to detain the child, well, there's a review every 10 days. So they're not just detained indefinitely until their case is set for trial, because they are a child. But also that the other things that must be looked into is, has this child offender previously been adjudicated delinquent? In other words, have they committed a previous offense? Are they, is this a problem that's getting better with this child, or is it getting, is it going in the wrong direction? Is it getting worse? So is it if it's escalating, there's probably going to be a recommendation that the child be detained, and it's probably going to be hard to overcome that recommendation because the evidence is not going to be favorable. And then, of course, there's those issues that we talked about in the previous video series about whether or not there's adequate supervision at the child's home, whether the child can go to an appropriate guardian's home that does have adequate supervision, etc. And of course, the potential for the child to abscond and flee the jurisdiction, or just skip out on the detention or adjudication hearing, which is part of this process. So again, if the recommendation is made and the court finds that the child needs to be detained, that detention hearing has to be reviewed on a 10-day basis. So 10 business days from that first hearing, there's going to be a subsequent hearing. So if there's a placement situation, the juvenile justice system is going to look to place that child outside the four walls of the juvenile detention center. And again, this is not something that occurs in our adult justice system, right? I mean, I hope none of you are ever in this scenario, but that system is very different. You get arrested, you get charged with a crime, you're held, a bond is set, and if you can make the bond, so be it. And if you cannot make the bond, then that criminal offender is in jail until the duration of the case, until the final trial on the merits. So the other thing that is and can occur in a juvenile criminal justice case is a transfer hearing, and that's something that can occur after that initial detention hearing. And the state will continue to work with local law enforcement agencies to gather evidence and make a determination as to whether the nature of the offense merits transferring the case into the regular criminal justice system. So what does that mean in plain English? That children over the age of 14 who commit very serious offenses, their cases can be reviewed, and depending on the nature of the crime, capital murder, like I said earlier, it's a murder that occurs in the commission of another felony. That is a situation where that case could be transferred to big boy court or big girl court, where that 15, 16, 17-year-old child is going to be facing the full scope of punishment under the Texas Penal Code. And that's a scary thing. That's a little bit bigger topic than is fit for this short video series. So I'm going to actually make the transfer hearing its own video segment in the next bit. Please, I hope you're never in this situation. Please understand these video series are meant to be informational, to be a roadmap, to be a spark of light in the dark. And I hope you're never in one of these scenarios, but if you are, that's what these resources are for, to help answer at least some questions about the juvenile justice system, what happens and where it goes, and what are the steps. So more on the Texas juvenile justice system next. Again, we're sending prayers of healing, solidarity, and unity out to the world for everyone who's suffering from the coronavirus pandemic and the economic impact of that, as well as to our own nation and countrymen, as we learn to live up to the rhetoric of our own revolution, and that we are all created equal under God. And I am reminded of the motto of our great nation, E pluribus unum, out of many we are one. God bless America.